All right, I'm Rob, and I'm going to talk briefly about how to fix broken virtual environments. Since this is a beginner topic, I'm going to briefly explain what a virtual environment is for anyone who doesn't know. Virtual environment gives you a way to install things, whether that be Python packages or entirely different versions of Python, into isolated environments so you don't break your system, you don't interfere with other projects, various things like that. It's a good idea to use them for pretty much everything, and I'm not going to get into the details of how. It's not really what this talk is about, but look it up if you're not familiar. Now, how do they get broken? What can that mean? Well, there are a number of different ways. System updates, if you install all the package updates for your Linux machine or something and it changes to a new version of Python and you weren't aware, that can happen. Or what mostly happens to me on a Mac, updating Homebrew. I run brew update, brew upgrade, and brew cleanup at least once a day. And the cleanup is the one that gets you because that's the one that deletes whatever versions of Python you had before. If you don't do that, everything will keep working, but then you're on old versions and don't even know it. So I don't like that. The last reason is you did something to break your system. So plan A for dealing with these virtual environments, the title's a bit of a spoiler here, but that is to plan ahead and not break it in the first place. And what I mean by that is you could just do, I don't know if I have anything here. You just do pip freeze, which will show everything in the current environment. You can just dump that to a text file. Yeah. Good? So we can keep going. So anyway, yeah, pip freeze will show you everything currently in the environment that's active, and then you can just dump that into a text file. And then later when you set up a new virtual environment, assuming you've removed the old version of Python, replace it with a new version, then you can just pip3 install from that file, and it will basically recreate the same environment, assuming that all those packages work with the new version. That's a separate topic. So plan B, if you didn't plan ahead, and this is what typically happens to me with Homebrew, you basically just delete all the symbolic links out of the environment and then recreate it on top of itself. And that will fix it. And I can demonstrate that right here. So let's see if I've got this one. Now I've got my system purposely broken in all sorts of ways. Some of those ways might surprise me. So this should work. So I've switched to this environment called IndyPy, and I run Python and I get Python 365, and that's fine. But I'm not going to actually run it because it'll break things too badly. But let's pretend I ran brew cleanup, and that deletes this 365 here. Oh boy. So now, still in that environment, when I try to run Python, it's going to say, I can't handle that. The reason being, now this is kind of a Mac-specific thing, but if you're using the framework version of Python, then it will symlink to that. That .python file is a symlink to this Python interpreter in the directory that just got deleted. So this isn't going to work. But if I were to, I believe my active one is the right one. Mm. Work. There we go. So if I go to where those are, now I have a script that basically does these two commands, since I do it frequently. So that's all this is doing, is it's finding all the symlinks in this folder and then recreating a virtual environment on top of it with whatever active version of Python I have, which is just an updated version of 365 from Homebrew. So now, if I come back and run Python, now it's back to working again. So that works in that situation, but I really lucked out with this talk that they released Python 3.7. So I can demonstrate what it looks like when it's really broken. Go to the latest. Now I'm going to run this for real, which I've been dying to do for weeks. And I had to wait. So as you can see, that removed Python 365_1, which is what that environment was referring to, along with tons of other stuff. So now, I don't even know if work on is going to work since I don't have that version of Python anymore. Yep, can't even run that. Let's see here. So now this trick doesn't work. If you find yourself in this situation, then see plan A and plan ahead. You're pretty much stuck with either hoping you had a list of what was installed somewhere. If you really don't have any record, you can always go in here to the old environment. Even though it doesn't work, it's still there. And look at what was installed and get a pretty good idea what you need to reinstall in a new environment. And I would recommend just deleting this thing once you've got this list and creating a new one from scratch. Because the symlink trick won't work. The reason being this, for each major new version of Python, they change the name of this folder. So, if you start installing things, it's going to go into lib Python 3.7, and it's not even going to look here for whatever was previously installed. So that will not work. Now, if you do need to keep an old version, like I actually have a project that does not work with 3.7, so I had to keep 365 around, but doing that with Homebrew is kind of challenging. So for that, there are 100 different ways you could deal with that, but a really easy one is something called IndyPy, which allows you to install multiple different versions of Python in an isolated directory, and then it also lets you switch between them if you want it to take over your system. I do not. But you can use that to just install whatever version you happen to need, and then you can either recreate or create on top of your old virtual environment using that version from IndyPy. And that will stay around forever throughout, brew cleanups and things like that. That was really all I had. Are there any questions? Cameron.
So you're using virtualenv and Viv directly with this change. You're using Viv and having it take care of all your stuff.
It would change in that the plan ahead part is kind of already done for you, because you could safely destroy that environment or let it get broken by system updates or whatever. But if you're using pipenv, it already has documented everything that you should have installed, so you can easily recreate the environment.